you never get beyond scarcity. You got to start beyond it. You got to plant your feet. And so many people say, well, when I'm rich, I'll give some money.
Right.
If you won't give a dime out of $1, you're not. I can promise you're not going to give 10 million out of 100 million.
Right.
Not a trillion years. So if you start, what I always believe is it transforms you. I had a group of kids that I went to, like when I was 31 years old. I was invited to this grade school in Houston, Texas, and each grade did a little mini assembly for me of how they used my stuff, at that year. And at the end, I was really emotional, and I was like, you guys asked me to come inspire you, you've inspired me. And so the sixth graders had only done it for 1 year, and I said, I'm gonna sponsor your college educations. I had no idea how I was gonna do it. I didn't have the money to do it, but I said, I was 31 years old.
Wow.
I was doing well, but not that well. And I said, I'm gonna pay for your college educations, but I said, here are the rules of the game. And I just made it up while I was right there. I said, you gotta keep a B average. I'll get you mentors. There's no excuse not to be above average. You gotta not use drugs, you not get yourself in prison, and you gotta give me 20 hours of community service a year.
Wow.
And the reason I did that is I don't have a college education, but I knew if I got these kids who thought they needed something to be the ones to go give something, it would change their identity, it would change their life more than college.
Right.
And ironically, I think we had 70 kids originally. I lost 95 kids I was gonna lose. I lost the first year. It was like 30 kids. And the reason was their parents did not want them to have to do community service. They said they should be receiving, they shouldn't have to work. And it was just staggering to me. But the ones that did it, some have PhDs now, went through that process. So I really believe that the secret to living is giving, as corny as it sounds. I had an experience where I was driving on the 57 freeway, not far from here in San Gabriel Valley, and it was midnight. I was driving my 1968 Volkswagen Bug, Baja Bug, and I was been in business for, a year and a half, and I was working my guts out, and I was so frustrated because, I always say that most people overestimate what they can do in a year and they underestimate what they can do in a decade or 2 or 3, right? So I'd been working for this year and a half as hard as I could work, and nothing was working at the level I wanted, and I was so frustrated. I was mad with myself, I was mad with the environment. I was feeling overwhelmed, stressed. It's midnight, I'm exhausted. And all of a sudden, this thought hit me, and I literally pulled over on the side of the road, and I've always kept physical journals. I still have the journal to this day. And I wrote on this one whole page, the secret to living is giving. And I sat there and I cried because I just realized my life for the last year had gotten focused on why isn't it working instead of how do I give more? And I made that shift, and it was one of the most important shifts in my entire life. And for probably a year, things started to get better. And then, you're in business, you make mistakes, I was a young kid. And I found myself all of a sudden in a 400 square foot bachelor apartment. I'd lost the progress that I'd made. And I was so broke that I wrote about this at the end of my book, because I was trying to think, how do I get this thought across to somebody? And the most seminal moment for me was, I had, $21, $22, whatever it was, to my name. I'm living in a 400 square foot bachelor apartment. I'm feeling sorry for myself. I'm watching Luke and Laura on General Hospital. I was a mess. I was a total mess. And I realized I've not paid my rent, and I'm out of money. And I don't have any prospects for some new cash in the short term. How am I even gonna eat? So I decided to go to this all-you-can-eat salad bar that they had around the corner of this place called El Chorrito. It's still there in Marina Del Rey. And I lived in Venice, so it was about a 3-mile walk. I didn't take the car because I couldn't pay for parking, for the gas. And I walked there and I went in and I had this meal where I basically loaded up for the winter. I ate plates of food, just tacos and salads and everything else. And while I was sitting there, there was this little boy that came in. He opened the door, and he was wearing this little vest, this little suit. And he, probably 9 years old, something like that, 8, 9, 10. And he held the door open, and in walks behind him this beautiful woman who was clearly his mother. And so, I definitely took it in. And then he sat down, he pulled out the chair for her, and he was just so attentive to his mother. He was just so with her that honestly, I was moved. And so I finished my meal. And then I got up and I paid the bill, and it was like $6 in those days, for all you could eat salad bar, whatever it was. And so I had whatever's left, $17, $18, $19. And I walked over to this little boy before I left. And I said, hi, and I introduced myself. I said, I'm Tony, and he told me his name was Paul or whatever it was. I don't remember his name. This little boy. I said, Paul, I said, you are a class act. I said, I saw you held the door open for your woman. I saw how you pulled up the chair for her. I said, taking her out to lunch like that, that is really cool. And he goes, well, she's my mom.
Right.
And I said, that's even more cool. And I said, take her to lunch. He goes, well, I didn't take her to lunch. He goes, you know, what? I think he said he was 8 or 9. He said, I'm 9 years old. I don't have a job yet. You know? And I said, yes, you are taking her to lunch. And I reached in my pocket and I took all the money I had left, whatever it was, $17, $18, $19, and I dropped it in front of him. I had no plan to do this. It wasn't like manufactured. I wasn't trying to impress this woman. And he looked up at me like shocked and he goes, I can't take that. And I said, sure you can. He said, how come? I said, because I'm bigger than you are, right? And he laughed like crazy and I didn't even say another word. I just walked out the door. Didn't even look at his mom.
You didn't get her number, huh?
No, I didn't get a number. And I gotta tell you, it was the most powerful experience of my life because I didn't walk home, I kind of flew home. And I should have been like, what is the matter with you? You have no money for food. You get the last little pennies you have left. But I had no fear. I had no scarcity. And I got home and I realized what I'd done. It was like, I have no money now. I have like no money, nothing, right? I was trying to conserve by going there, you know? And I don't know. I just said, I've worked on a plan. I figured I'll figure this out. And the next day I got the old snail mail and came in around like noon. And I pull out this letter and there's a young man that I had loaned $1,200 to. And he had not paid me back. And I was desperate for cash. I probably called him 10 times trying to track him down. Not a single response. And I was so hurt and pissed. And here's the letter from this guy saying, I'm really sorry. I know you've been trying to reach me. I've been avoiding you, and here's the money you owe, and I'm gonna give you some interest as well. So I got, at that point, that was like more money than anything. And so once again, I'm sitting there, tears going down my face. I'm an emotional character. And I just thought to myself, you know, why did this happen? And I chose to believe, I don't know if it's true, but I chose to believe that it's because I let go of trying to just take care of myself. I did what was right. I didn't plan it. I did it spontaneously. I saw it. It felt right to me. I did it. And I felt no scarcity. And I can tell you, I've had plenty of tough times. You know, I have 18 companies and 12 I manage actively. I got 1,200 employees on multiple continents. We do $5 billion a year in sales across different industries now. I mean, it's a different world for me now. But since that, and I've been near bankruptcy multiple times in companies and things like that. I pulled it off always, never went bankrupt. But I faced really tough times. I never went back to that level of scarcity, not since that day. So it's a long way of saying, when you have nothing is when you need to give. You know, if you're gonna wait till you think you have something, you're never gonna have something of any size or scope. There's something inside the human psyche that when you do what's right and you get outside of yourself, there's something that'll click for you. And also, you know, tithing is a perfect example. I don't know anybody, regardless of religious belief, who's tithed 10% of their income for a decade and not prospered massively. And Sir John Templeton was the first billionaire investor, was the first person who said that to me. He said, Tony, I know you tithe, but he said, tithe more. He said, do more, give more. And he said, you'll receive more, just how it works. And I found it to be absolutely true.
Really? You continue to give more and more every year?
Yeah, well, I was thinking I was writing checks for $5 million. I mean, work on a book for 4 years and give up all the profits for it. And then I wanted to feed more people, so I wrote another big check above that. So, and now I'm doing it this year. I'm going to do it for the next 10 years. When you see someone who's the best in the world at what they do, they're being rewarded in public for what they've practiced millions of times in private. And so I keep making, I haven't stopped. I keep learning, expanding, making new distinctions. I mean, 2 or 3 times a year, I look for something to make me grow. The last thing I did, it's crazy. I finished Date with Destiny in Australia. I was exhausted 7 days a night, 6 days a night. Really 10 because I worked with my trainers before that. And I flew straight home because the only opening in my schedule was not a vacation time. I went for 6 days to this place in Sedona, Arizona, where they put 180 electrodes on your brain. It takes like an hour to put them on. They put you in a room for 14 hours that's pitch black. And it's cold as hell. It's kind of what my seminars probably feel like for some people initially. And you learn how to turn on the alpha part of your brain, which of course not only makes you really happy, but you can solve anything in an alpha state. And it's hard, and there's these sounds that are coming out of your brain because they got this amplification. But I mean, I do that, and the first day I want to say, who do I have to kill to get out of this? Because it's like, I'm exhausted and this is so painful. But I stick with it because I know if I can develop that skill and others, I'm just gonna have that much more impact with people. So for me, I built the certainty by decades of producing the result. But in the very beginning, it was just, this person's hurting and I've got to do something. And that core aspect of me hasn't changed to this day as it was back then, but I was fortunate enough to succeed and figure things out, and you build on success.
Yes.
And it's not that I've never failed. I've failed plenty of times, but not, if I fail with somebody, I just do something else. And if that fails, I do something else. It's like I always say to people, how long do you give your average child to learn how to walk? Before you cut them off and say, you're not a walker. You go, my kid's gonna keep trying until they learn to walk. That's why almost everybody walks. So I just keep changing until I find the way.